Hey, good to go down the road with you. Let's go down the road, huh? Let's do this together. How many of you are tired? How many of you are tired? If you follow politics at all, you're probably tired. It went on for quite a while last night. I was covering it on my radio show. I was doing this until, I don't know, 12:15 last night, and finally we threw up our hands. We knew some key things. We did. We knew the fact that Colin Peterson from the 7th District had been beat. Not beat, but beat. Michelle Fischbach won, and she won that race handily. We knew that in North Dakota legislative races, the Democrats had got their butt whooped there as well. There was already just a few Democratic legislators, but there's fewer now. Some of the key races in my home area, Jim Dutzenrod, who served this state in so many different capacities for years, found himself on the short end against Jason Heitkamp. I'd say no relation, but our fathers were first cousins. Obviously, we come from different sides of the aisle. Larry Robinson, a longtime legislator out of Valley City, works with the foundation with Valley City State. Larry found himself on the short end as well. And if you go to Jamestown, John Gravinger, John's been in the state Senate for a long time. He lost as well. Every one of those losses was Democratic losses. And so, on a local side, these are men that I had served with and men that I had hoped would win, and obviously they're men that lost. And so not a great night for the Democratic Party here in North Dakota. None of the statewide races did the Democrats find a way to win. Doug Burgum won handily. A lot of that down ballot races won handily. And so you could argue that they came in with a mandate, but that mandate has been there before. I mean, it really has. It's been a long time since the Democrats have won a statewide race other than Heidi Heitkamp's United States Senate race 8 years ago. And we're going to talk to her a little bit later here and down the road. But obviously the big race that everybody's keeping an eye on is the presidential race. It's very undecided yet. There's some key things that you need to take a look at. In fact, let's take a look at Arizona. Let's take a look at Arizona first. If you take a look at Arizona, you're going to see that Joe Biden's ahead. You're going to see that Joe Biden's ahead 51% to 47.9%. And there's not a lot of votes left to get in Arizona. In fact, many people have already called Arizona and said Joe Biden's going to win. This is the ghost of John McCain. I really believe that. This is the ghost of John McCain. John McCain, longtime hero to Arizona, and quite frankly, longtime hero to this nation. Donald Trump beat him up every chance he could. He did. He beat him up probably harder than the Vietnamese did. Called him every name you possibly can, right down to loser. This is the man that for 5 years sat in a prisoner of war camp in Vietnam. Wouldn't leave when he was allowed to leave by the Vietnamese, and he wouldn't leave until the people that he was captured with were able to go. He's a hero to me, or he was. John passed away, and Martha McSally was his replacement that the governor appointed. Martha McSally lost that race. And so we're going to have Senator Kelly, an astronaut in Arizona. And so I think this was John McCain coming back at Donald Trump. And the reason I believe that is because the people of Arizona thought of it. They thought of it when he went to the polling place. Want to take a look at Nevada, and we're going to break that down a little bit later as well. But in Nevada right now, Joe Biden is winning. Now, the key to Nevada, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that in those precincts or in those areas, in those counties, however they break it down, that Nevada has not counted those ballots. You're going to find that those are in the Las Vegas and Reno areas. Now, what does that mean? Well, those are areas that vote pretty solid Democrat. They do. A lot of workers, a lot of blue-collar workers, a lot of individuals that, might be members of the union, might have looked as though the Democratic Party has stuck up for them when very few people have. A lot of first-generation Americans as well. And so put it down. I think that when you look at Nevada, I think it's very fair to say that Nevada is one of those states that's going to break Joe Biden's way. So add that into your total. Now let's take a look at Georgia and take a look at where we're at in Georgia. What you're looking at is is a race that Donald Trump's winning. Donald Trump is at 50.3. Joe Biden is at 48.5. Georgia was a big plus. It was a wet kiss for the Biden administration. When they looked, or the Biden campaign, I should say, getting ahead of myself. When they looked at Florida and Georgia, they looked at those as extras. That wasn't part of their overall plan, but when they saw how close they were in the polls, along with Texas, I might add, they decided to spend time there. And they decided to do what they could to maybe win one of those races, because if they did, then it would have been all over, and it would have been all over early. They didn't. I don't think Joe Biden wins Georgia. There's some votes left to be counted there, so I'm not counting it out, but I don't think Joe Biden wins Georgia. I want to head to Wisconsin, and I believe Wisconsin has been called. If you look at the numbers in Wisconsin, you're looking at 49.6 versus 49% for Joe Biden. Again, some votes need to be counted in Wisconsin. We're at 90-some percent. But if you look at the votes that need to be counted in Wisconsin yet, you're looking at areas, again, that traditionally, and very strongly, I might add, when you look at the exit polling, vote Democrat. And so, again, Donald Trump, the president, is up against it no differently than what he is in the Nevada area. Now, let's take a look at Michigan. And let's take a look at what Michigan, quite frankly, when I went to bed last night, I thought, you know what, there's no way Joe Biden's going to win Michigan. He since has pulled ahead. If you look at the numbers there, Joe Biden is at 49.7%, Donald Trump at 48.8%. Let's go back to the areas that have left to be counted. A lot of areas have left to be counted, not the least of which is that absentee vote. Of course, everything's registered as well. And so if you look at where people traditionally vote in those absentee votes, you could easily make an argument that Michigan has a whole lot more votes to be counted on the Democratic side than it does on the Republican side. So let's go backwards before we go to Pennsylvania. If Joe Biden wins Arizona, if he wins Nevada, if he wins Wisconsin, if he wins those if he wins Michigan, I think I'm repeating myself on Wisconsin, but I didn't. It was Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Joe Biden's president of the United States. Joe Biden is president of the United States. Now add in Pennsylvania. Let's take a look at that. In Pennsylvania's case, you're going to find out that Joe Biden is behind. And he's behind at 53.5% to 45.4%. So you're looking at those numbers and say that's a lot to make up. It's not. It's not. If you look at some of those areas as well, in Pennsylvania, you're going to find that those areas traditionally vote Democrat, and they had record turnout in those areas. They did. There's a man named Ed Rendell. Now, Ed Rendell was governor of Pennsylvania. He's old school. I mean, he is old school. Ed Rendell is people my age would compare him to John Daly in Chicago. He's one of those old crusty guys that finds a way and does know. Let me give you an example of Ed Rendell. Ed Rendell in the Clinton race, Clinton-Trump race, told everybody on the Democratic side of the aisle that Hillary Clinton was in trouble. He told everyone that it looked like Donald Trump was going to win Pennsylvania. He told them before the votes came in. He knew how much trouble Hillary Clinton was in Pennsylvania. And then, of course, as the votes came in, it was easy for him to break down and say, you know what, I don't care how close people think this race is. Donald Trump is going to beat Hillary Clinton. Last night, my sister Heidi, who's going to be on with us a little bit later, was on ABC. So she's on with George Stephanopoulos, and they're doing like anybody does as commentators on this. They're calling the best advice they can possibly call. I think they woke up Ed Rendell last night. I do. I think he was in bed when he took the call. And I think he was ticked off that he took the call. And we'll ask Heidi about that a little bit later. But as the story goes, he picked up the phone. He said, "What?" And his answer was, "Oh, Joe Biden's got Pennsylvania. Hang up the phone. Let me sleep." So let me say this. I trust Ed Rendell. Now, what's the biggest deal when it comes to Ed Rendell and Pennsylvania? Well, Pennsylvania itself, if it goes along with those other states for Biden, you can have all the lawsuits you want. In fact, the Republican Party and the Trump administration has already filed a lawsuit in Pennsylvania. And of course, they're arguing about some of these absentee votes as well. But if you're sitting there looking, as the court system, a situation where it isn't just 270, it goes beyond 270. It would be hard enough to make the argument in the Electoral College that, hey, this needs to be argued, this needs to go to court. It'd be hard enough to do that at 270. But add Pennsylvania into that, it gets real hard. It gets real hard. And so Joe Biden has a pathway to victory here. I'm not saying he won. That is not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's won Nevada. I'm not saying that he's won Michigan. I don't want to get ahead of myself that way. That's not the point I'm trying to bring out. I'm trying to give you a snapshot of what's happening in those states as we sit right now. And then you add in Michigan to all of that, and you're in a situation where that's a hill too hard to climb for Donald Trump. So Democrats don't have a great night last night locally. Democrats nationally, when it comes to the U.S. Senate races, things really haven't changed, although the bodies have in terms of the seat counts. On the House side, they lost some seats, but they maintained their majority. And of course, the big race. And it is the big race, ladies and gentlemen. This is the race that either ends the Trump administration or extends the Trump administration. And we're going to know a lot more about it sooner than what you think. When we come back here, Thane Rosenbaum's going to join us. He's a legal analyst. Let's take him down the road with us right after this.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together today and stand united in the fight to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Case counts are steadily on the rise in the Bismarck-Mandan metro area, so please do your part. Protect yourself and others by wearing a mask when you're not at home. During the pandemic response, scientists have determined wearing a mask is a benefit to you and to those around you. This help keeps others from getting sick and may lessen the severity of illness if you were infected with COVID-19. We're all in this together. So let's get kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep our community strong. Let's show everyone how we come together to keep Bismarck the safe, resilient community we know and love. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus. That's health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Beck Communications is honored to be recently recognized with 3 Broadband Now awards. Beck Communications Cooperative was awarded in the categories of Top Internet Speeds Nationwide, Top 3 Fastest Internet Providers in North Dakota, and North Dakota's #1 fastest fiber provider. It's only through the support of our members and customers that Beck Fiber delivers award-winning speeds and service. Thank you, Beck Communications Cooperative members and customers, for your years of continued support.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Is your business phone system outdated and expensive to maintain? Most large VoIP companies leave you on hold or struggling through online support and training for your employees. With Beck Connect, you always have fast, friendly, local support. Familiar faces with the know-how to keep you connected. Take advantage of the newest technology in voice calling, video conferencing, and virtual meeting rooms. Beck Connect gives you all the features you need with no upfront investment and no obsolete hardware or software ever again. Simplify your communications. Choose local. Choose Beck Connect.
Welcome back to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. We're going to bring in Thane Rosenbaum now. He's a legal analyst. He's one of those guys you call when you're in trouble or when you want to know something. Thane, good to have you on Down the Road.
Anytime, Joel.
Of course, everybody's looking to what can happen in the courts on this presidential race. They're kind of shaking their head because I think there's been 300 lawsuits already filed in a dozen states. Give me your analysis. These lawsuits, just walk me through what's going on out there.
Well, Joel, there's two ways of looking at the lawsuits. There's the ones that deal with early ballot, mail-in ballots, and the others dealing with late arriving ballots. So the ones with respect to the early mail-in ballots, that's just a question of establishing voter intent, right? You're counting a ballot that showed up through the mail absentee, and is it legible? Is there a postmark? Was it signed? Is it witnessed? Is it dated properly? Is it sealed in a sealing envelope, which is a secondary envelope they provide in some of these states? If you fail some of those tests, it's like the hanging Chad 20 years ago, right? There's a technical glitch and we could reject the ballot or invalidate the ballot. That's going to be one source of the legal skirmishes. But the bigger legal skirmishes, which we've already seen in petitions before the Supreme Court over the last several weeks from Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, is the idea that you're even going to count the ballots that arrive late, right? That the mail-in ballots that have been granted extensions by state courts, the question is, was that constitutional? Or was that something that had to be done by state legislators and not by state courts? And if it goes to the Supreme Court, Joel, that's going to be the argument. Can you revive Bush v. Gore, the ghost of Bush v. Gore, on the theory that these states misinterpreted the law by improperly extending the deadline in a way that they weren't permitted to do because they're unelected courts and unelected election officials, but they're not legislators. And the Constitution is clear. State legislators are responsible to provide the time, place, and manner for federal elections, and just the legislators. And I suspect that's what Donald Trump was saying this morning. He didn't say it in those terms, but that's what he was saying.
So who brought the suits? Because that's a lot of lawsuits. I mean, is this, obviously there's a lot of talk about the Trump administration bringing the majority of them, but is it just the Trump administration?
No, not at all. In fact, it's a good question. In Pennsylvania, it was brought by a Republican, right? Just a member of the party who was concerned about the fact that he believed what Donald Trump believed, which is that there's potential for abuse and fraud the longer the election, the actual voting begins. And what it means by that is that something is floating in the mail and it arrives late. And there's even a question with the early mail-in ballots, Joel, who was in charge of the custody of them? Where were they? Remember, Florida did it right. They counted their ballots earlier, before the votes. All the other states did the opposite. They shoved the mail-in ballots somewhere in a safe or something, and then they went ahead and conducted the actual voting. So what Donald Trump keeps saying is, who had custody of the ballots? Did they fall off a truck? Like, how do I know that the ballots themselves don't represent a double vote because someone mailed it a week ago and was concerned that their vote wouldn't count because it wouldn't get there in time? So they showed up to the polls and they voted. And it might not be so easy for us to cross-check to make sure that they didn't double vote.
So I want to use Pennsylvania as the example. When I pulled it up, Pennsylvania says that the vote has to be postmarked by November 3rd, but it has to be received by November 6th. Of course, that's quite a distance of time, and that's one of the arguments that Donald Trump has been making, that it goes on and on and on. You know, when you talk to the folks in Pennsylvania, they don't think it's going to go on that long. You mentioned Florida and the way Florida handled this. If it goes on, if it's received by the 6th and that result continues and it doesn't come, and Pennsylvania becomes that state that Joe Biden or Donald Trump have to win, how quickly does the lawsuit get resolved? I mean, how quickly do we have an answer? Because that's quite a lag of time.
Yeah, Joel, remember Bush v. Gore, 36 days, right? So that's one benchmark. That took a number of different state courts and at least one long appearance in the Supreme Court with actual oral argument to the Supreme Court of the United States. We could have something just like that. And the point that you made is the right point, is that in this instance, it's not just one state, it's a number of states that could be subject to the same question. Because remember, the pandemic opened up the possibility that mail-in ballots extended beyond the deadline would be accepted and counted, right? But Donald Trump was always very suspicious of those ballots, in part because he believed, correctly, that his people would show up on election day to vote. They'd be there. But that everyone else who was voting are the kind of people that probably might not have voted otherwise. And now you've given them a free pass to vote. And so they didn't have to get up early in the morning to stand in line. And so because these yes, go ahead, sorry.
But I'm struggling with the argument, because you look at other states, and when I pulled up Iowa, and I think I've got the right state in Iowa, or at least certainly a number of other states, you automatically get mailed to you an absentee application.
Right.
You know, and of course you go to the West Coast, and some states the only way you can vote is by mail. And so when he makes that argument in Pennsylvania, I mean, I was pre-law for about a week, Thane. So I mean, how do you make that argument though?
Well, he wasn't actually making a legal argument. I was making one for him now. So, you know, I just think the difference, what you're describing, Joel, is the sheer overall volume of votes that arrived through mail and late arriving ballots. Yes, some states allowed that anyway. Each state has their own election rules. It should be more uniform, but it's not. But no matter what, look at Pennsylvania. You're talking about millions of votes, but that showed up in a very different format. And uncounted, the early votes weren't counted. So here we are counting the votes that had been held in custody, and all the new ones that are going to trickle in. Trickle's not the right word, surge in between now and Friday. And, you know, I can't say that Pennsylvania did a very good job in preparing for this, because they set it up.
Okay, one last question. I got to have an answer, and it's a 10-second deal. Coney Barrett recuse herself?
She has already, when the first cases, emergency petitions, both from Florida and North Carolina, she did recuse herself, because the Pennsylvania situation has already been before the Supreme Court in the last 3 weeks twice. So she was already recused. But if they decide to take this on an expedited appeal, where they're going to brief the cases, make the oral argument, my guess is she'll step back in. She didn't step in before because she showed up late and she wasn't there for the beginning. An actual case takes place in front of the Supreme Court, I bet you she'll be sitting there.
And if you're a Democrat, that's a scare the H out of you. Thane, thank you. Thanks for coming on down the road.
Anytime. Thank you.
Stefan Hankin is going to join us. He's with Lincoln Park Strategies, and we'll get a chance to get his take right after this.
I just went in for a regular mammogram, and I found out that I had a little tumor.
Through the exam and the biopsy, it was determined that I had cancer.
I got a call from one of my doctors that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
After 5 years, they found a local reoccurrence.
The first thing you hear when you're told you have a cancer, it's a little daunting because you don't know where to go with it.
Since 1999, in a partnership between CHI St. Alexius Health and Sanford Health Bismarck, the Bismarck Cancer Center has provided the most advanced radiation therapies and holistic support services for cancer patients and their loved ones for 20 years.
I've been at the Bismarck Cancer Center since it started. I actually was in the basement of Med Center 1 before, when we had old machines and old equipment. And thankfully, the two hospitals at the time, St. Alexius and Med Center 1, joined forces to create the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I walk in the door, I get nothing but hugs, and I was marveled at them. I mean, I thought it was the best place in the world.
The staff is unbelievably compassionate, and they explain everything to you.
Everybody's genuinely concerned about your well-being, and the level of care is just top-notch. The Cancer Center just does such an amazing job of helping people.
To me and my family, the Cancer Center means life. It's given me the ability to live out my life with my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren.
Because of them, I'm 2 years out. Get to move on with my life, make a difference now for other people.
I would recommend this center because the minute you walk through that door, they've got your back.
This center means so much to me and to the people that are in this building, and we just want to keep giving it back to the community and providing for them what they need.
I'm Katie. I've been cancer-free for 2 years.
I'm Steve, and I've been cancer-free for 4 years.
I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
10 years.
11 years.
15 years.
My name is Lainey, and I've been cancer-free for 18 years.
Bismarck Cancer Center, your partner against cancer for 20 years.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
$300 lawsuits. That's what we just got done talking about. 300 lawsuits with Thane Rosenbaum. Can you imagine that? They've already filed lawsuits, and we're sitting here making an argument that doesn't need to be made yet. I think, of course, the big fear is that you've got a situation where, you know, the votes have been counted, people have been celebrating, and the champagne corks have been popped. And how do you put the cork back in the champagne? And that's really what we're talking about. The cloud that you can put over an election. The American people don't like that. Al Gore, you know, really could have made an argument to take that all the way to the Supreme Court. He could have made the argument that he really didn't lose that race, that the Secretary of State in Florida, Katherine Harris, had shown such a bias in throwing out ballots. He could have made one heck of an argument, but Al Gore chose the nation over himself. I'll never forget that. He did. Al Gore said, you know what, it's time to concede. It's time to pull the pin, go ahead and pop the champagne corks. I think that says a lot about the man. I think it says a lot about the character of the man. If the scenario continues to where after Michigan, Joe Biden has 270, in the Electoral College. After that scenario, I think that Donald Trump needs to take a serious look at conceding and throwing away these lawsuits, because this nation is so divided. It is so divided. We as a nation are just ripping our hair out. And that's one of the reasons that I'm very anxious to see Joe Biden win this election, is because of the fact that I think Joe Biden brings people back together. I think that Joe Biden represents a Ronald Reagan more than he represents a Donald Trump. That Joe Biden's been around government. That's one of the arguments that people keep making about Joe Biden. He's been around government too long. You know, Joe Biden, too much government, all of this. You know what? He knows players. He knows players on both sides of the aisle, and he will take a completely different approach than what Donald Trump has taken. It won't be as partisan. It just won't be. And I think people on both sides of the aisle can agree with that. Now, whether or not you like his policies, that's a whole nother thing. But the controversy ends. This daily all-star wrestling match ends. The ability to just as a nation take a deep breath and not wake up every morning and read a Twitter account and say, really? He said that? You know, and I've heard from a lot of friends that are diehard Republicans. And their constant message to me is, I like him. I like him, but I wish he'd get off Twitter. I like him, but I wish he wouldn't say the things that he's saying. Well, ask yourself this. Do you think Joe Biden will? That's why I believe it's so important that when Joe Biden gets to 270, when he gets into Pennsylvania, if he wins Pennsylvania, that they take a look at all of these lawsuits and they say, you know what? We're going to throw those lawsuits away. We're going to put them in the garbage. And once we put them in the garbage, then what we're going to do is we're going to concede. We're going to concede, and we're going to do the best thing we can for this nation. We're going to take this nation forward. We're going to let it go the direction that it's headed. Every vote matters. And why in the world would I argue? Why in the world would I debate votes? We've got a COVID situation going on. I don't know what you did. I know what I did. I voted absentee. Now, I've voted that way before. I'm not trying to pretend I haven't, but I voted absentee. And there are a lot of people that really didn't belong voting in person. I want to talk about Josephine Arfer. You don't know her, but I do. Josephine Arfer is my mother-in-law. If I said her age, she'd be awful mad at me. And she's probably watching as we speak. But Josephine's above 80. Can I just say that, Joe, without you getting mad at me? And so Josephine does not belong in an election line in some schoolyard or in some schoolhouse or in some gym somewhere. She doesn't belong in that election line. We've got a COVID situation going on. So take a Josephine Arfer and take a situation where in Pennsylvania, she's allowed to vote. And she has to make sure it's in the mail. I mean, she does. She has to make sure it's in the mail. And what does she have to do then? Well, Josephine Arfer has to make sure that it's stamped, it's addressed, and then in Pennsylvania, it has to get to them by November 6th. That's important. That's really important. So let's go. Let's go to Stefan Hankin. Now, who is Stefan? Well, he's president of the Lincoln Park Strategies. Stefan, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thanks for having me on.
I want to talk about the election breakdown with you. I want to talk about what you're seeing. You got your last $10 in your wallet, okay? Last $10. What are you betting? Biden won this thing, or is it still Donald Trump's election?
I think Biden's going to end up squeaking this one out, we're kind of looking at the 270 if he doesn't win Pennsylvania and Georgia. Maybe it runs up to 306, but I think obviously we're talking about the electoral votes here, but I think it's still Biden ekes this one out.
Which one of those states that are left is the one that, if you're the Biden camp, you're the most worried about?
Pennsylvania, although in theory he doesn't need Pennsylvania. Let me change my answer. Nevada, because he needs Nevada and then he doesn't need Pennsylvania. So I'm most worried about Nevada, but I think it's going to come in for Biden.
Now, you've looked at what's left in Nevada. You've looked at those areas of Nevada. You've broke that down. What are you seeing in those areas where the votes haven't been counted in Nevada? Are they Democratic areas? Are they Republican areas? I mean, what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix. I mean, what it really is it's mostly the early votes that are being counted. And we know that in general, this tends to favor Biden, right? Like regardless of state or regardless of area, early mail-in votes tended to favor the Democratic candidate. So the expectation is that Biden will continue to grow his lead or, get closer in some of these states where he's running behind. We're seeing this in Michigan, we're seeing it in Pennsylvania, Arizona, same kind of thing. So that's typically what we're seeing. Now, obviously that can change and, it starts heading in the other direction. That would be a bit of a surprise if it did. But it feels like, Biden should hold on in those states. And then the question becomes what happened, because Pennsylvania still has about, the last time I checked, it's like 25% are still out. And they're saying they're not going to know until Friday what the final count is or something close to the final count. So ideally, we don't have to wait till Friday, but we might have to wait till Friday.
So let's go through them one at a time. Arizona, Is it done? If the ghost of John McCain won here?
Yeah, I mean, I think that one, I think Biden can put in his column and feel pretty good about.
Okay, Wisconsin.
Same thing, close, but Biden's column. I mean, the president's already saying that he's going to call for a recount, which means the White House is saying that Biden won it. And then just as a remembering when the recounts happened with Governor Walker in 2010, 2011, I think it was a net gain of 300 votes. And then Biden is currently up over, don't hold me to the exact number, but it's definitely over like 20,000 votes in Wisconsin. So making up 20,000 votes in a recount is slim at best.
Okay.
So I think solid for Biden.
Michigan.
Same deal. I think he'll actually win Michigan more than he won Wisconsin by. So right now he's up in the, I think 50 to 60,000 range. I think that probably grows to a point where I think a recount is going to be a waste of time. They might still do it, but I think Michigan feeling pretty good.
So if he does in fact win Nevada, which you said that, that's one that the Biden camp should be nervous about, but you've given the Biden camp Arizona, you've given them Wisconsin, you've given them Michigan. Then you take a look at Nevada, where you said it's mixed, but when you look at that map, those are pretty big and strong Democratic areas that still have left to be counted.
Yep.
Is it done? Is the race done?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're not going to say done until it's we're feeling like, okay, like this is official. But the odds of Biden holding on to this, I think, are quite good. It would take this would take I don't know what the card analogy is on this, but like this would be a miracle for Trump to pull this out. Now, I think the question becomes, is it 270 or is it 306, right? So the 270 means that Trump ends up winning Pennsylvania, ends up winning Georgia, right? And that's just a different presidency going into next year, even though Biden it looks like he's going to win the popular vote by north of, 6 million votes. So if he goes in with a 6 million vote lead and, 360 electoral votes, that's a much stronger position than if it's 270, regardless of what the popular vote is. Now, it's not really going to change how I think the Senate handles Biden, with McConnell still in as the leader. But I think there's a little bit more wind at his back if he can pick off a Pennsylvania or Georgia just to boost up that number.
In the 10 seconds I have left, I'm just going back to your $10. If you bet that $10, you're right. That's a cheap case of beer. So don't spend too much on it. Okay.
I'll try not to.
Okay, thanks for coming on down the road. When we come back, we're going to get a chance to visit with Heidi Heitkamp. She worked this all night last night on ABC. Heidi had a chance to visit with George Stephanopoulos, and I want to make sure when you get a chance to hear from Heidi, we talk about Ed Rendell, because the conversation she had was great.
Bismarck Central, 4800.
4800, go ahead.
Requesting social services on-call team.
Stand by. 4800 social services requesting additional information.
You can advise social services that we have an 18-month-old female who was in a residence with a mother, now being transported to medical care for overdose.
Trusting your digital life to faceless tech giants can be risky. Will they keep your family and business information truly safe from prying eyes? If you subscribe to local Beck Lightband internet service, you already have Beck Cloud Backup. Beck Cloud Backup is the safest, most private cloud storage for all your family memories, schoolwork, and business documents. Call 701-475-2361 to start using your free space on Beck Cloud Backup today.
You just might find the home of your dreams this weekend by watching the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 7 on Beck, featuring properties from Bismarck, Mandan, Minot, and surrounding areas. The Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes presents desirable properties that are for sale, lets you meet your Alliance realtors, and provides critical insights into local happenings from community and business leaders. Join us this Sunday evening at 6 or Wednesday at 7 for the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes on Beck.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before. More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together to get our kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep Bismarck safe, strong, and resilient. A community task force has been launched to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. We're all in this together. Protect yourself and others by doing your part. Wear a mask when you're out and about, and slow the spread of COVID-19. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to Down the Road. She was in the heart and soul of it last night. Heidi Heitkamp has been asked to be on a lot of national shows. Last night, analysis with George Stephanopoulos on ABC. Let's bring her in. Heidi, good to have you back on Down the Road.
Thanks so much, Joel.
Okay, let's talk about the difference between the two Heitkamp.
You, Joel,
What?
let's talk about my payment first. No,
Payment?
people do pay me for this advice.
Okay, so let me talk about that. Your place at the lake next to me, I'll make sure Denny mows it. How's that? Okay, good. And, you know, Corona, but that's a whole nother issue. Last night when you were in the heart and soul of this, when I went to bed, I stayed at our sister Holly's last night. I was not in a good place. I'm not going to lie to you. I was nervous as all get out when I woke up.
What time did you go to bed, Joel?
12:15.
Too early.
Yeah, too early. Well, with the way it was when Holly woke me up today and she talked to me about where the numbers were looking, that's a good way to get woke up. Puts you in a pretty good mood. When you went to bed last night, did you feel confident that Joe Biden had won?
Bed? I haven't been to bed.
Really?
Really, I've been. I worked until about 4 in the morning, and then I hit at 5:30 our time, and then I spent some time zooming into Europe, talking about the election. And I've done a couple interviews. Now I'm on with you, and then I'm going to do another hour on ABC.
They didn't pay you for Europe. Admit that.
No.
Okay, so good. I don't want any.
They aren't even mowing my grass. So.
I don't want any bill sent to me on this. Walk me through it. Walk me through what's going on here. Start with the ghost of John McCain.
Well, that's a good place to start because that's when things really started turning around, when we started seeing the numbers come in from the early vote in Maricopa County, and they were overwhelmingly in favor of Joe Biden. And, you know, I kind of laughed because I tweeted Cindy, I sent Cindy a text right away and said, I think John's up there pulling some strings. You know, it was bitter. It was not that I'm into revenge, but, you know, the treatment of the McCain family by the president has been reprehensible. And that's not the reason why Cindy endorsed Joe Biden. I think she endorsed Joe Biden really against, you know, her Republican principles because she believed he would be a much better president and that he really cares about putting the country back together, which she cares a lot about. But I started seeing the numbers come in, and of course I wanted to know what she knew and how real these were. And she said, no, it's been holding pretty steady, and she thought they were real. Also talked to John McCain's former campaign director for many of his campaigns, and they really thought that this time Arizona could go for a Democratic president for the first time in a long time. And so, you know, that was a surprise. And it was the first Trump 2016 state that actually flipped to blue. Then we had to worry about Nevada. Nevada notoriously slow at counting their votes, but everybody had it in the win column. But as I was watching the night, Joel, and seeing these kinds of, I thought we would see a 3-4% transition from the 16 race. We weren't seeing that in a lot of places. And I thought, you know, there's a reason why the president has been out to Nevada. And Sheldon Adelson, a big donor, Republican donor, spent a lot of money there. And, so I thought this could be close. And today, with about 80 some percent of the vote, they're at about an 8,000 point spread. So Arizona, I think clearly is Biden. I think Nevada's going to be Biden. I called my friends there and said, where's that vote? And they said it is in Clark County, which is Las Vegas, a Democrat stronghold. So we fully expect those numbers to hold. Then it started getting really interesting in Wisconsin. The buzz all night was that Scott Walker was telling everybody, Wisconsin's going to go red. It's going to go red. Trust us. And then we started seeing the numbers, and the numbers really told a story, those early vote numbers, and took that race from being a -7 race for Biden to now a very close but doable 20,000 spread for Biden. For Trump, took it to a spread for Biden by about 20,000 votes. Wisconsin notoriously has recounts. The president, everything's been counted in Wisconsin. President just announced a few minutes ago that they're going to ask for a recount. Very seldom are you able to move 20,000 votes one way or the other. And so I expect that Wisconsin's going to hold. So that's where we are. Now we're at that spot where how do you get to 270? Everybody said you're going to need Pennsylvania, you're going to need Pennsylvania. The reality is that you could do it with Michigan, you could do it with Georgia, you could do it with North Carolina. I have friends in North Carolina who told me that race is pretty much done. They don't see 70,000 absentee ballots to open, closing the spread substantially. And so it's not likely that Biden is going to win North Carolina, but he came very, very close. And so now we're down to Pennsylvania and Michigan. Michigan, everybody thought was going to tighten up. It has. In fact, Biden has pulled ahead in Michigan, and we're waiting to find out. And so has the Senate candidate, a Democratic Senate candidate. If those hold, those numbers that are coming out of the Detroit area, early vote numbers, you could expect that Biden is going to win Michigan by, again, a small margin. Some think it's going to be 6 digits. I'm not sure I'm there yet, but it definitely is going to be very difficult to overturn it in a recount. So that gets us to 270. So let's go back to Pennsylvania, where it all started, and where the most battleground of all battleground states in this election. I have a friend, former Governor Ed Rendell. He's not a BSer in any way, shape, or form. I think 4 years ago, he pretty much told the public that Hillary was going to lose Pennsylvania, and she did. I think we woke him up at ABC. He's a friend of George's, and said, hey, Ed, you got to come on. Tell us what you think. And Ed got on and looked like he didn't want to be woken up, and he just kept saying, we're going to win Pennsylvania. We're going to win Pennsylvania. And they go, where are you going to win? Where are you going to win? He goes, we're going to win Pennsylvania.
Let me go back to bed.
He's a better judge of that than I am, but certainly there's a reason why that race isn't being called. The president was pushing really hard to call that race because that was his biggest margin. But when you only have 65% of the vote in, you can't call a race at 65% of the vote when a lot of that vote is mail-in, early vote that needs to be counted.
So you took us to Pennsylvania. As you pointed out, you don't have to win Pennsylvania if you're Joe Biden to make this happen. Let me take you back to Michigan because you talked about the Detroit area and the early vote. Now, the Detroit area consistently blue. The early vote by all polling numbers has been blue. So when you look at Michigan, is that kind of stick a fork in it, it's done?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I expect that Joe Biden this afternoon will say he's achieved 270,000 votes and that he is the presumptive nominee. I expect that to happen at some point here. He's supposed to speak, I think, at 1 o'clock or at some point today. The other thing I want to mention is that Joe Biden has broken a record. You know what that record is? The most number of votes ever achieved by a person running for president in this country, around 69 million votes. This was a record turnout. Joe Biden actually got more votes this year than Barack Obama got in 2008, and we're still counting him. I think at the end of the day, Joel, the popular vote spread may be anywhere from 5 to 7% with Joe Biden winning the popular vote.
I've got 30 seconds left. Do these lawsuits win? I mean, all these lawsuits that the Trump administration has brought, do they hold up?
Well, I think that they really have focused on bringing lawsuits in Pennsylvania. And if Pennsylvania becomes, I mean, not irrelevant because they're an important state, but if Pennsylvania is not the tipping point, then you've got to walk backwards and figure out where else you're going to sue. And I think it's really hard, especially given that Michigan today is going to make the decision, count all the votes. The president keeps saying you've got to count the votes, and they're going to go on and they're going to find votes that were somewhere. Unless he can prove that in a court of law, this is over. And so I think now is the time that we think about what that peaceful transition of power should look like.
And you know, in the little bit of time I got left, I want to ask you that. Do you think that Donald Trump concedes? Do you think that Donald Trump, if things go down the way you just described, that he actually does what's best for America and says, look, I'm done. I'm going to pack up?
I think that we got a taste last night at about 2:15 in the morning when you were sleeping. I was not. When Donald Trump took to the stage and said the election was a fraud and that he wanted all the votes counted in Arizona, but he wanted to stop counting votes in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Well, I think that this is the strategy. I think it's also in a bit of irony in this election. Donald Trump today is maddest at Fox News because Fox News called Arizona for Biden very early.
Got to go to a break. A yes or no Coney Barrett rule when it gets to the Supreme Court?
Does she what?
Does she rule? Does she vote?
I don't think so, actually. I think she might see her career much longer than a 4-year cycle. I think she's going to have to gauge that herself. Nothing says she has to. But I think at the end of the day, I'm not convinced this is going to get to the courts. It's going to be in the state canvassing system, and they're going to have to find some cause of action. Okay. Now, they say they have. I think that's going to be very, very hard to find.
Heidi, thank you. I appreciate it. Now go to bed, okay? When we come back, some closing...
I've got more of these to do, Joel.
When we come back, closing comments on Down the Road.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
You're looking for secure private cloud storage, but who can you trust? Big tech companies don't always keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business information away from prying eyes. Your local Beck Lightband Internet Services comes with 50 gigs of Beck Cloud Backup free. Hometown service with top-tier security to keep your data truly safe and private. Get your 50 gigs free today. Call 701-475-2361 and ask about Beck Cloud Backup.
My name is Rich Shook, and I lost my best friend in a grain bin accident.
Some of the emotional scars that when these incidences happen just resonates throughout the community like dropping a rock in a pond. guess I'll never forget. At least the last moments we shared. That's why I think this is so important to get out there to people, is people think that it can't happen to you, and it can. The time it would take you to just kiss a loved one, and your life is over. I believe it's unacceptable.
This message provided by North Dakota Farmers Union.
You know, folks, it's always fun going down the road with you. I only got a little bit of time left, so I want to hit this. Governor Burgum put over $1 million into a local legislative race, and that was in District 8, north of Bismarck. And the reason was not because it was Democrats there, it was because he didn't like the Republican there. Jeff Delzer, chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, you could make an argument that that's one of the strongest legislative positions, didn't just say, Governor, you can have whatever you want. In fact, Jeff Delzer said you can't have all the money for your library that you want, is really what ticked the governor off the most. So the governor ends up running an individual against him, in fact, a couple of individuals against him. What happens? Well, one of those individuals dies. That's right. One of those individuals dies. And you know, now, okay, he still won. In fact, that's all you got to be as a Republican on the ballot, and you can still win, even a dead man. Won. I don't want to make a joke or light of it. I just want to point out how bad the Democratic Party is doing right now. So anyway, you know, the governor decides that he has the power to fill that seat. He doesn't. He does not. Century Code clearly points out that the legislative district has the chance and the opportunity and the responsibility to fill that seat. If they don't get it done, then it goes to the legislative body. In other words, the Republicans in the House do that. The governor's wrong in doing this. He wants to do it just because he doesn't want Jeff Delzer getting that appointment. In other words, he doesn't want $1 million hangover. I mean, that's what the governor doesn't want. He's abusing his power. Governor Burgum has taken this to a whole new level. Now, it's up to the legislature to realize there's 3 branches of government. Allow District 8 to appoint, take that District 8 appointment, certify that election, let him put his right hand to God, and you know what? You've got a new state representative who's actually an old state representative. And then let the governor sue you. That's what I'd do, but then I'm not there anymore. It's always good going down the road with you, and until the next time, good riding with you.